accepting that you can be imperfect, accepting that you don't have to have everything all together is perhaps been one of the most profound things that I have to struggle with. And it's a big tension that I face. One of the things that you will understand if you grow up in our culture, everything is about perfection. Everything is about getting everything right and living by metrics and how we determine what things are right and what things are wrong. In our work, we're often told to make more money according to these standards. At our home life, people will judge us if we're not good parents. At even on our entertainment, we are looking at how to entertain ourselves appropriately. We even have metrics today of what is popular and what's not, and what other people are actually listening to and paying attention to. Everything is ranked, everything is about being perfect. And one of the most profound things that I have been struggling with, it's not something that is done, is to be imperfect, to realize that I don't have to listen to the things and abide by the things that other people listen to. I don't have to be on top of popular culture. I don't have to be always the perfect employee. I don't have to always be somebody that is always there for my kids. I don't have to always be in the moment doing things and meditating in such a way that I am an ideal being. I think this is one of the most profound things that I personally struggle with. I don't really care about you because this is all about me. Is realizing that every time that I do something, it doesn't have to be a moment of perfection. One of the things I used to struggle with, this is just a funny example of this, is that I used to think that I was somehow wrong because I did not like professional sports. I don't like watching it on TV. I find it extraordinarily boring. I don't keep up with it. I don't know who these different characters are. I don't know anything about who are the teams that are at play at this moment. And I used to think like I was just kind of this nerdy, weird kid that didn't really pay attention to that. But one of the things I've learned is to embrace the fact that I don't care, right? Like that. And that I used to think like this guilt. I used to think like I was this wrong person, right? Like and I struggle with, like, it's something I struggle with. But I'm being proud enough to say I do not care about professional sports. It's completely irrelevant in my life. What somebody else does has no impact on what happens, other than maybe if you go to a city where there's a professional sports team that's going on and there's more traffic and it may impact my life. But other than that, I don't care about those things. It's the same as, I often, depending on how bad I feel about myself at a given moment, I will go onto the news and I'll look at something and I will be like, oh my gosh, the world's coming to an end because the news says this and this and this. But I've been learning to say, and I somehow think that I can actually determine and do something about this, right? Like, I think I'm self-righteous enough that I can influence the world by paying attention to the news. Like, that's just me being a pompous ass. I have learned to say it doesn't necessarily matter to me, and I don't have to pay attention to that. And I'm still a perfectly good citizen if I don't pay attention to it all of the time. And all of these moments where I say I have to intentionally is a very intentional struggle. It is this mental, because I'm of a person. Um, I think for so many years that I was imperfect, right? I thought that I can perfect myself, right? And I can get better at this by honing in. I was always the last. I mean, many of you probably know my story. I was in special ed. I wasn't necessarily athletic. And then at this point in my life, I've gotten to the point where I have achieved many of the things that I've wanted to achieve. And I've been striving to be imperfect and to say, I don't care as much as I try to hone in on something. And the reason why I do this is not necessarily I want to be like, I don't want to be fired, right? I also don't want to be a neglecting, husband and parent and all that kind of stuff. I do this so that I can be more joyful at any given time and be more of something that I would love to be. And part of dealing with the things that go on in our lives is to take a step back and not deal with them, right? And I know it seems counterintuitive, and I know that we're preached upon for so long in our lives of this sort of we act and then we get consequences because, and if we don't act, then all of a sudden our life is going to fall apart. This is such a deeply interwoven logic that we all pay attention to, sort of train of thought that we all pay attention to. And that is deeply part of our culture. And we have to take a step back and say, you know what? Not everything has to do with me. And I think if you start looking around, you start to realize that almost everything in your life had very little to do with you. And your thoughts, right? That's going on in your head. And so for me, to accept that I am imperfect is accepting that there's many things that are outside of my control and many things that are about embracing me in my context of where I'm actually at and being okay with, I don't need to have all of these desires and perfect in all these different areas. I could just be me. And the more that I work on this, the more I try to actively seek to be imperfect and weird and uncomfortable, the better off that I actually am by doing that. And I think it's a practice, it's a skill, it's a muscle, whatever you want to call it. It's something that you intentionally have to do, where you have to say, I'm going to be imperfect, I'm going to be weird, and that's perfectly fine. Take care and have a wonderful day.